Hello, this is Ross, also known as Milwaukee 2, for DragTheBar, and today I am going to be making a heads up video. I will be playing either one or two tables of heads up no limit here, just $100 buy-in game. Um, I've had a few people talk to me like about they've seen my heads up results on table ratings, so talk a little bit about that. Most of the time, the reason that my stats are so good on table ratings is because I normally will not play regs heads up. That's just a rule for me because I don't consider myself to be a great heads up player, and I probably don't have a big edge, if any, against most heads up players. But I do use table ratings, the table ratings website, to scout out my competition for heads up play. So I did look up this guy, and while he does seem to be playing pretty good so far, I did see that he was a decent loser on table ratings, so I'm definitely gonna play him for a little bit and just see how things go against him. And it's a good river card for me. I'm just gonna shove it because I think if he doesn't believe me, he's gonna be calling me here. Just about any bet size, and I have the nuts on the river with my 9-10, and he does end up folding. So not sure what he would play like that. He might float a flush draw on the flop, decide to float again on the turn, maybe even a mid pair, he decided to fold by the river. But as you can see right now, he did not reload after that hand. He does seem to be playing fairly aggressive so far, so he's definitely not the worst player in the world at heads up. But if I had to take a guess, that probably is going to be the fault in his play, is that he is over aggressive, probably tries to steal too many pots even when he really doesn't have much hope of winning the pot, given the lines that were taken in the hand. So I haven't really made much discussion so far on specific hands. I've been folding a lot, but hopefully I will get into some more interesting spots. And I have actually 4 tables total open right now, 3 other empty ones, and if I do get action on another table, I will try to play 2 tables at the same time, heads up. This game seems to be going pretty fast, so should get decent discussion just with the one table going. All right, this is gonna be my first 3-bet here. I get ace king suited, so makes it 3. I make it 9.5, and he calls pretty quickly. On the flop, it's $19. I'm gonna bet $11. I think that's a pretty standard continuation bet. Even though the board is semi-wet, and here he decides to raise, and at this point against an over-aggressive player, even though the board is dry, I think I'm just gonna call and then check to him on any turn, and hope that he just pushes. Maybe a draw, maybe air, maybe an 8. Alright, he checks back, and at this point I think he really was probably bluffing on the flop. Has probably air, probably a hand like 6-7 or something, and my only chance to get a stack here is going to be to let him bluff it off, which he does on the river, and I'm going to get a stack here with my quads. Yeah, so he had king 10, so I think when playing heads up against certain players, is just you have to definitely want to consider the way the match is going. And against a lot of players, alright, he raises my c-bet on the ace high flop, I would just, there's a flush draw out there, alright, I'm going to be safe and just shove. I have the best hand 90% of the time there. But against this guy who seemed to be over aggressive and trying to win a lot of pots, I felt that just flatting out of position even on the drawy board, I felt that his range for making that raise was probably going to be air a lot. So I definitely wanted to give him a chance to bluff off his air, and I did that by just calling. Allowed him to continue bluffing and bluff off his stack to me. So I don't know, a lot of people out there might look down on heads up players who who refuse to play regs. I will play regs once in a while. Um, usually if I find a reg that I think has a pretty glaring leak, I'll definitely sit with them for a while if I don't have action from a worse player at the time. Um, I do think that playing a lot of heads up, especially if you're playing decent competition, will help with your 6 max game. So even if you're not looking to transfer from a 6 max player to a heads up, just getting a little bit of experience playing heads up, I think will definitely make you a better 6 max player. So I don't have any action right now, but for the time being, I'm just gonna see if I can find anybody who wants to play me. Okay, I'm going to sit with this player here, Hockey Shawnee, and we will see if we can get some action. Not even sure. I'm just assuming this guy is a reg. But, alright, he's set out. So, probably looked me up on table ratings. No, thank you. You know this. Alright, I don't remember ever sitting with this guy, but, that's that. That's the thing too, like while I avoid playing a lot of regs, I find that if I do ever want to get action from a reg, it's basically impossible. So a lot of people like to call it bum hunting. I guess that's what it is, but I just like to call it good table selection. And I think honestly, I'm not a good heads up player. Really, I don't consider myself a great heads up player. I think I'm pretty solid, and I'm definitely probably one of the best at beating fish at heads up, which really isn't a whole lot to brag about, but I will say that I'm pretty darn good at beating fish heads up. So hopefully we can get another fish to sit with me soon. It usually doesn't take too long to get more action, but if it does, you might just be able to scroll. If I'm boring you at the moment, you might be able to scroll a few minutes ahead in the video and see, wait till I get some action here. Sitting at about 6 empty tables, so it shouldn't be too long. It is later in the day, which you find you get a little bit less action at night, but you still should be action. Maybe I'll even open up a 50 no limit table, see if somebody sits there. I do find that when you are looking for fish at heads up games, I don't know about the other sites, but on Stars, it's almost always you're going to get a lot of action at say 100. I almost never have a problem finding action at 100 no limit. I don't have to wait that long. 50 no limit, I don't play it that much, but I'd imagine you can get action right away, usually sitting at those tables. At 200, sometimes I'll be sitting there for half hour, even an hour at times when it's like the off times. It's about 1 a.m. right now, where I live Central Time, so the action is going to be a little bit slower. And at 400 plus, it's hit or miss. Sometimes you'll get good action, but most of the time it's pretty sparse. I mean, if I sit at a 400 heads up table, I'd say I'd probably have to wait on average about an hour just to get action from a fish. And that's an average. Sometimes I'll get 2-3 fish an hour. Sometimes I might have to wait a couple hours just to get action from a fish. Okay. I'm going to look at some 50 no limit tables, see if I can get somebody who is setting 50 no limit to play me a little bit. And again, if I am playing a reg at heads up and I do find that I have more fish than I can handle while playing the reg, that I will sit out versus the reg and just continue to play the fish. I don't know what this guy just said. Haha, 1 sec. As I join the table. So it looks like he might give me action. He just maybe has to take care of something first. Let me look up this guy's table rating, see if he's a winner. I don't have any hands on him. That one just played was the first one. His username is BuddyListMe. So, and he actually is a pretty decent winner. He wins at almost 10 big blinds per 100 at 50 no limit heads up. So, and that's over about 13,400 hands. So I'm gonna assume this guy. I absolutely will not play you. Haha, why are you here? Alright. Oh, I'm just gonna keep trying to get action. Keep sitting with people now. Unless I get a fish to pop up on one of my tables, I'm just gonna keep sitting at different 100 or 50 no limit players and see if anybody will play me. Okay, and it looks like I'm gonna get action from this guy, this heads up player. He's and then I also just received action on someone who bought in short at a 50 no limit table. So I raised, I see bet the flop, and he called. I really don't think I'm gonna get him to fold a whole lot of pairs here, so I'm just gonna check back. And it's Jack on the river. He bets small, and I could try raising him off the bluff there, but I don't have any reads on him yet, so I'm just gonna fold. Here I'm gonna defend ace-9, which I think is pretty standard heads up. He checks it back. I'm just gonna lead the turn with my ace-high and gut shot. Here's a limper here, and just gonna raise it up with ace-jack. Bet with ace-jack, and bet again here. Turns a 5. I don't think that's a good card to continue firing. If he does have a pair, there's a good chance he's not going to fold to the 5. And okay, and I'm not going to continue to bluff the ace-jack here, just because pairing the board is also another bad card to bluff against a fish. Pot's $17 now, and here's ace-3. And I'm going to call with this one out of position. And I'm just going to fold my ace-jack here, even though it's a small bet. Okay, I'm getting a little action now on the other tables, so let me, I'm going to sit out on this one against this player. And we will see. Alright, let's bring in this one here with the ace-king. I know this guy on the table, the 50 no limit table, is definitely a fish here. Alright, with ace-10 here, I'm gonna call and flop a pair. So here with my 7-8, I'm not gonna continue betting it, and probably just gonna check fold there with my bottom pair. And with ace-10, I'm just gonna check call here. Definitely got a favorable turn there, so I'm gonna be going for a check raise on the turn here. And he bets it pretty big, so it's hard for me to rep a whole lot on this turn, which I just think makes it a really good. Obviously, you can check raise 2 pair here, but I think there's a good chance I'm going to get action as well. 7 to 24. It's pretty standard. I think it's a little less than the pot size. And he ends up folding. So here I got called with jacks. He check called the 3-heart flop, and again, I'm just going to give up because I don't think he's ever going to be folding with a heart here, so I'm not gonna bluff at it, and I'm just gonna fold again. Still haven't won a pot against this guy, but King Jack, again, I think that's another standard hand to defend with. And he bets the flop. I think there's a good flop to check raise here with my king high flush draw. And okay, he makes a big re-raise, and at this point, I think I'm just gonna fold it. And I think that at that point, in that hand, that King Jack there is probably too valuable to fold, but at the same time, I don't want to be check calling out of position with it. It's gonna be tough to play just check calling like that, but I think that if I do play it aggressively, it's gonna make it much more easier to play on future streets. Especially if I hit a flush, there's a better chance for me to get paid off. Okay, I'm getting action from other players now, so I'm gonna close that one out as well. And let's see what we have here. Okay, I'm gonna bring in another 50. Oh, darn, he just left. Okay, well, I'll just have this one table going for now then. I had action at this 50 no limit table. It seemed like a player who had a high VPP, but he ended up leaving soon after. So I'm just going to concentrate on this one player right now. With 10 jack suited, the guy's limping pretty much every hand, so it's definitely going to be 10 jack suited is a hand that can make a lot of nut hands or big hands. So definitely want to get some money in the pot. And I bet my gut shot on the flop. I'm just going to continue betting when I pick up my flush draw, just to hope to get him to fold. And I think maybe I can get him to fold maybe a 7 or a 9 here on the river. So I'm just going to fire out a bet again. There's no way I'm going to win the pot by checking. And well, he min raises the turn, so he probably had a hand like maybe 6, 9, 7, 9, ace 6, something that probably made 2 pair, maybe even the rivered straight. But definitely think that the bet on the river there is good, just because there's no other way for me to win that pot with jack high. And I think this guy's won just about every pot from me so far. I won 2 very small pots from him. So, but as long as he stays at the table, I'm definitely confident that I'm going to get his stack, and it's probably not going to take me that long, just because he's playing almost every hand pre-flop, which I should be able to beat that strategy pretty easily. I got action on my other 50 no limit table here, so guy opens the first hand. I'm just gonna fold with 9-7. I'll be opening king queen my first hand. This guy just hasn't been folding to my continuation bets whatsoever, so I decide not to c-bet and then just give up. Give up on the queen 10 flop here. I'm just gonna bet with my pair of fours. Try to get value from it. Just keep betting, because I think you can float that flop with a lot of random hands. And by the river, I'm not really getting value from anything, so I'm gonna check, see what he does. Okay, so here I flop top pair, top kicker, and I'm gonna check raise the flop here with my ace 10 on the 6, 9, 10 board. And he bets $5 on the river, and I think I'm just going to look him up here, because I think his overbet on the river there is probably going to be an 8 or aces, or big hand or nothing there. I think he can be floating the flop with gut shots or plenty of bad hands. I haven't won a hand against the guy. Seems like he likes to play every hand, so I'm just gonna try to get a feel for the hands he's playing by making kind of a light call down there. I was able to win the ace 10 hand. I bet a turn that brought my flush draw. It was actually one of the best turns that could have hit for me, the deuce of hearts there. And he ends up folding to my turn bet. This guy is probably a decent player here, I'd have to imagine, just because he's opening a lot of hands. He did reload after I won that pot from him, so okay, I'm just gonna keep betting the river, see if I can get him to fold a hand like a pair of 5s or 6s here, which I think is a hand that he would play like that. Alright, he raises the river, so thought for a long time before raising the river. I think I'm just gonna have to you know what, I don't think he has a 7 a whole lot here, so I'm just gonna min re-raise, It's kind of a donkey play, and then I'll just be, obviously folding to his shove. But I think he's not gonna have a 7. He's not gonna be raising a 2 there, and at the same time he's not gonna have a 7 a whole lot. So I think min re-raise there is fine. Just try to steal the pot. Alright, and he does shove, so I'm just gonna assume he has the 7 and not keep playing. 9-3, I'm not gonna open that hand. And he sits out. So I lost action from him, but I actually did just pick up action on a 100 no limit table here, so I'll bring that table in. This guy hasn't played a hand so far on the 5 hands, so he bought in for 50 big blinds, seems to be playing pretty tight. So finally flop a hand against this the fish on the table to the right who never folds, and definitely going to be betting this one hard just because he never seems to fold. I think I have the best hand a lot. Alright, here he makes a small 3 bet. I don't think it's terrible to call. 4 more, I'm getting a good price with ace 3, and obviously I'm going to be having to fold a lot of flops, but I still think it's okay to be calling there. And he bets full pot. And I made my straight on the right hand table. I'm just gonna keep betting, bet about half pot, and hope to get called by a worse hand. Alright, with queen 10 here, I'm gonna defend out of position. Think that's pretty standard. And he checks back the flop, and as you can see, people have been checking back the flop quite a bit against me, and so far it's been for pot control just about every time. So I think I'm gonna definitely value bet this river, because I think he can do that with a hand like maybe a 9 or something, although I would expect him to bet the river. Alright, here with my deuces, just playing the board by the river, not even gonna call him in bet by the fish. 9-7 suited, I think that's okay to be playing out of position against him as well. Alright, turn 2 pair, he checks back the flop, definitely gonna bet that one. And I got him to finally fold to a continuation bet on the table to the right. I pick up 8s in the big blind, gonna raise that up to 4 times after the limp, and just make a half pot bet on the turn just because I have the best hand very often. With king 2 suited, I think that I could play that hand against a full stack player, but against half stack I don't feel like the implied odds are good enough to be playing that hand out of position. So I'm just going to be folding there. Alright, and he makes a bigger 3 bet this time. It's probably a reaction to my call last time. He figured has to make it bigger for me to be calling. And I'll find that someone who plays a half stack but 3 bets to a normal size like that, it's definitely going to be exploitable, because then I can start shoving. Pretty much if he's 3 betting me a lot to that size, I can just start shoving any decent ace and any pocket pair against him. And if I have any fold equity at all, it's going to be definitely going to be a good play. Alright, so I got the guy on the right to fold to another c-bet. So I'm not going to be c-betting him as often just because he seems to call a lot, but on boards that don't look like they're going to hit him, I will be c-betting. Here I'm going to c-bet with ace 10 on the 4-5-5 flop. I think that's pretty standard. Just keep firing there. I'm gonna look up this this bluff player, bluff, K-H-A-ace-ace, on table ratings, just to see if I can get what he's all about. Okay, he wins at about 1.7 big blinds per 100, and he's just about break even over. Alright, with ace queen here, I think 3 betting can be okay, but I'd rather just call. I think it's okay to also go for a trap there with a hand like ace queen. Now here where I flop a gut shot, Um, okay, yeah, I checked back the turn here just because my hand, it was a decent hand, but at the same time I didn't think I was going to get two streets from a lower diamond a whole lot. So here I'm going to check call the flop with, because I thought that ace queen could be good there. And okay, this river, I think I can value bet this river. Might be good to check there too, just because I don't think he has a hand a whole lot that's going to be calling with after taking that line. And he's definitely going to be bluffing some percentage of the time on that river when I check to him. But I think betting there is fine too. And there's probably a good chance that I had the best hand on the flop there. All right, this is a hand I was kind of talking a little earlier about being able to shove medium aces. I think after he loses a hand, there's like a great chance he's going to be 3-betting light, you know, with maybe a hand like Jack 9, King 9, or whatever. I think if I have any fold equity at all, I can just shove even hand as weak as ace high here with his 3-bet size. And as you can see, he snap called me with 7-9 and is going to probably suck out in the hand, but it's definitely... Oh, I won the hand. Hit my ace on the river. I'll find that a lot of fishy players, even though he was a winner on table ratings, a slight winner, after they lose a hand, they'll just 3-bet and call it off. I mean, I've seen people make that play with hands like 2-10 suited. You know, they love their suited hands. They'll just 3-bet and call it off with hands such as that. So I can just shove like ace-5 in that spot. And even if you don't have fold equity, it's going to be fine because ace-5 is probably going to be ahead of his 3-bet calling range, as it was that time. So, looks like I'm going to get action on a 100 no-limit table. I'm just going to look up the player using table ratings to see if I can find out anything about him as well. Okay, so this guy's a pretty good winner too. Over the sample that he's played on 100 no limit, and since I have action from the guy at 50 no limit, I think I'm just gonna not play him and just play the guy who's on screen right now. Okay, and I still have a few other tables open, so I think there's a good chance I'll be getting action at one of those. Try to get some more 100 no limit tables going rather than 50 no limit. I don't really find that if you have the bankroll to be playing 100 no limit heads up, it's really not even necessary to play 50 no limit because, alright, this is the first time he min re-raised, so I'm just gonna assume that he has a strong hand here, and that flop definitely hit. It's gonna hit his range. And you know, I could call the min bet going for a set, but even if I do that, there's a good chance if I hit the set, it's not gonna be good. You know, maybe running clubs is enough reason to call, but I'm just gonna fold that flop with my sevens there. Like I was saying a little earlier, I usually don't have much problem getting, you know, 2 or 3 fish at a time at 100 no limit, which is pretty much all I can handle at a time. I really can't handle more than, say, 3 tables of heads up without my play really starting to deteriorate. So I find that if you have the bankroll to be playing 100 no limit heads up, if you have, say, 30 buy-ins for that game, go ahead and skip right to that level just because you're going to be able to find plenty of fish in that game. Okay, I pick up the flush draw on the table to the right along with my middle pair, and I do think I have the best hand a lot of the time along with the best draw. I'm just going to keep betting that one. And I picked up action from somebody who bought in for a half stack here at another 50 no limit, so I'll play this person as long as I continue to not have action at 100. And just be folding here. Oh, there's a good chance that you know, I was gonna get a split there. I still think a fold is good because he bet like twice the pot. This guy has shown that he can slow play before. If I remember, he did limp aces earlier in this match. Okay, I flop top pair. I'm just going to start betting full pot when I flop top pair against this guy, just because he's not folding a 3 here ever. Just want to keep getting value while I think I have the best hand. And 9 doesn't really change a whole lot. I'm just going to bet again. Hope to get called by a 6, maybe a 3, and he does end up folding. Flop top pair here. Bet about 2/3 of the pot. Turns an ace. I'm just going to keep betting it, and he ends up folding on the turn. The reason I decided to bet the ace turn is while that does make his calling range that I beat a little bit less wide, I still think that it's important to bet those cards just to charge draws and just overall just to establish an aggressive image. Alright, here I'm not going to continuation bet with ace 6. The guy's folded to c-bet so far about 50% of the time, which isn't insanely unreasonable, but he hasn't been folding a lot in the limp pots either. Here I get min re-raised with ace 2 suited, so I'm going to take the flop here and fold with ace 6 here. Alright, he underbets this flop, so I think I'm getting direct odds just to draw to my gutter with the 5 and even the runner flush draw. Queen was not a good card for me. He bets $1.50. And pot's $7. I mean, I think I can even, as long as I'm not calling big bets on like ace rivers or anything, I can take this card just to try to hit a 5 and stack him on the river if he does end up. Alright, here I'm not going to try to bluff that river. Actually, I'm going to sit out on this 50 no limit table, and because I got action on a 100. It's a half stacker again, but still find that that's going to be more profitable for me to be playing a half stacker at 100 as opposed to a half stacker at 50 no limit. So I have 150 no limit and then one 100 no limit heads up table going right now, and just going to bet this flop here. I still think I have the best hand a lot here. I'm just going to keep betting with my pair of 6s. And pick up a pair of 8s on the table to the left, and that ends up being good. I don't really find a whole lot of value in betting that 8 on the river. He ended up having 2-4 offsuit. So just by seeing that he had 2-4 offsuit there, I can definitely have the read so far that even if he gets to the river with a hand that doesn't have showdown value in position when I haven't shown aggression, that he's not going to bluff at it, which is definitely a good thing to know. It means I'm probably going to not be calling his river bets very light at all. Okay, I pick up 2 pair here that also brings pretty much all of the draws, but I'm definitely going to just keep betting, protect my hand, and for value. And I end up taking that one down. Flop is straight on the table to the right, so hopefully we'll get action here. And he checks, make my standard bet, and he calls pretty quickly. So think with the quick call, there's a good chance he can have like an ace, maybe a random 5. With this lead on the turn, I think a lot of times he has nothing, and while there is value in protecting my hand, at the same time I think it's even more valuable to just call and let him continue bluffing on a river card. So I do decide to just call, and he bets the river, and against him I don't think there's a lot of value in raising here, even though I do have I just don't see a whole lot of hands that are going to be calling me that I have beat. Alright, so he does end up hitting the split. So maybe my call on the turn, it did allow him to hit his, what does he have, like 6 outs there, but I still think it's the better play, because even if the ace does not hit the river, I think he's going to be firing off his stack often. So I think that's definitely okay to just flat that turn bet. And here he bets full pot on the river, and yeah, at this point I think it's safe to just fold to my queen 7. Okay, I'm just going to continuation bet this board. There's a good chance it didn't hit him, although a better chance than most, because we did see that he'll be calling raises with hands like 10-5 and such. And he does the same thing again, and I don't think I'm going to make a play at this one, just because the board's so coordinated. If he has a hand like, 8-9, 7-8 or something, I just don't think I'm ever going to get him to fold. So be calling the min raise with a lot of hands too. It's probably fine to fold there too, but I find that I can play that hand profitable against him out of position even. Plays kind of weird. He's definitely been playing passive, more passive on the earlier streets, and then betting rivers more aggressive on later streets so far. I'm not sure if that's because of haven't really seen him show anything down. I'm not sure if that's because of alright, my bluff got called on the table to the right, and here he min leads at the pot. I'm just gonna float, just because I think I have the best hand sometimes, and if he checks to me on the turn, I can make a bet to steal it off into. Oh, he ends up check calling the turn. And there's a 9 on the river. And yeah, I'm not surprised at all that he led this river. And I'm just going to fold again. Just think it's hard for me to rep much. But with the lines he's taking, definitely can assume that he's not a good player, and I will be able to take his stack eventually. Alright, flop top 2 here, but I probably now in retrospect should have led that flop, just because of how often he's doing exactly that, checking behind flops. Should not have given him the chance to do that, but I'm just going to keep betting here. And he folds. It might have been good to check that river too, just because the turn got drawy, and he has shown aggression so far on the later streets when I've checked to him. But here I'm going to bet for value with my pair of kings, and turns a 10. And I'm not surprised at all that he let out at it, because he's been doing that often. And while I think I have the best hand here a lot, with stack sizes the way they are, I just don't think a raise is good at all. I think calling is by far the best play, and just playing a river. Hopefully it doesn't get too nasty. And well, river gives me a straight, but it also gives a straight to any jack. But definitely going to be calling a river bet here, just because he's been so aggressive. I think I have the best hand here a lot. And he does end up having king 8, which is he slow played on the flop, decided to lead the turn and lead the river. So I'm happy about the way that hand turned out. Definitely could have been bad had he raised the flop, but he didn't. So alright, table to the right I raise with 10-8. I'm just going to continuation bet the ace board, ace-9 board. Haven't really been able to make any progress against this player on the table at right. Even though he's been playing really loose, limping a lot, I haven't been making a ton of hands, but just made one now. I'm definitely going to just keep value betting this. And the queen on the river, Um, Against a normal player, I would value bet the queen, but here I think that it's better to just, he's got a lot of queens in his range, and I think it's better to check and let him bluff off with the $4 bet. It's just I want to raise it so bad to get value, but really I'm only getting value from a king, so I'm just gonna be real weak here and call. And alright, he had the 3, so maybe he calls a little raise there, but and maybe there was even value in a bet, but I just felt that he had a queen there a lot, and this type of player, even with a queen, I don't think he's gonna bet big there, so it's definitely gonna let me get off cheap against this kind of player by checking the river and also letting him bluff miss draws at the same time. Alright, he min raised me. It's the second time the whole match he min raised me, so I'm just gonna assume that that he has a big hand when he does that, just because he's not doing it very often. I find that some fish like to min raise, every other hand, and those are the kind of players that you can play a little looser against. But against him, I'm just gonna respect his min raises for now. I'm gonna check back this flop. It's so drawy that I don't think he's folding any gut shot or anything like that. When he bets the turn, it's at the same time, because it's drawy, I definitely think it's worth putting in a raise here, and I don't think he's gonna be folding a ton of draws. So definitely think there's value in that. And the river brings a draw, so we'll see. Alright, he bets out half pot here, and I think he can be doing this with the 4 a lot, but I think he can be doing it with other hands that I beat sometimes. So I'm gonna call. I'm gonna look him up here. Alright, he does have the 4, so as you can see, our turn raise was good, but river call might not have been. Alright, this is the first time he ends up raising. And I'm actually getting action on a couple other tables here, so I'm going to see if it's worth closing any of these out to bring up a new table. And here he raises, so I'm just going to make a big re-raise. I'm going to assume he has a big hand here because he hasn't raised at all. So I'm going to make just an overbet re-raise with my aces and keep betting it along and happily shove the river. I'm ahead here like 90% of the time, especially with his timing. And he called me down with ace high. So that table might be over now. I don't know if he's going to reload, but I'm going to bring in a new new table. Actually, I have a couple new tables here. Here I raise pre-flop with kings, continuation bet the flop, continuation bet the turn. He min raised. I have the nuts, so he's probably going to shove this turn almost every time. No, he's not. Well, I'm going to shove it then. It's about a third of the pot. So I decided to just give up. And the player on the left-hand table said hi to me, and I said hi back, and he's just talking to me. So it's definitely a good chance that he is not a good player. And I always love it when a player sits down and starts chatting with me. Sometimes I'll get people, because of my screen name, they'll be like, oh, I'm from a town that's real close to you or whatever. They'll be chatting with me. It's always fun. Chat with the fish. Alright, he min re-raised here. I have 8-9 suited, so I flop middle pair. I'm just going to bet half pot for value. I find that they'll never fold a hand like ace-king here. When I do this. Now he does check min raise, which means there's a good chance he does have the big pair. And I'm going to take one card off to try to hit an 8 or 9 to stack him. If I don't, I'm just going to be giving up here, most likely. And he checks again on the turn, maybe scared of the flush, but I'm not going to try to bluff it. Alright, I river my 8, which is a very good card. No value bet here and hope to get called. Maybe I could even made it a bigger value bet, like 20 or so, but maybe he even calls me with ace-king here. I had you for a while here, he says. Yeah, he's not going to be calling me. Whenever they say something like that, I find that they almost never call. So just going back to how what I said before, I think I don't know if I said this, but I think that I probably if I just played 100 no limit heads up against bad players, I could probably make $100 or more an hour at least, and that's just basically playing, you know, almost variance free poker against these guys. As you could see, the hand before I got called down by ace high. The guy snap called my re-raise pre-flop and then my 3 streets. I mean, I could have been betting ace queen bluffing all the way there and I would have got called down and won the pot. So there's definitely a lot of action at small stakes heads up, and at this point ace 4 is just, I think, a shove after he limps here. He's only got 17 big blinds left. So alright, he called me with 6-9, so that's never a bad situation when you get called by a worse hand and shoving. And I'm able to take that. Yeah, he didn't hit it straight, so I'm able to take that one down too. And I do usually like to take notes even on the fish while I play them heads up, but haven't really been doing that a lot today just because it's a little tougher for me while I'm talking so much, trying to explain the hands. Here I flopped a gut shot, but he only min bet, so I'm getting like 4-1 just on this flop call. So, and I turned double gutter, so I'm probably going to be playing, unless he makes a big bet on the turn. If he bets like half pot again, I'm going to be calling that. Alright, he checks back, so I think I can try to steal it here, even though not going to be able to steal it a whole lot. I think that still there's really no other way for me to win that pot unless he's got a hand less than queen 10 there. Alright, same thing with threes here. He's limping almost every hand, and I think I have a lot of fold equity at this point by shoving with threes over his 25 big blinds. So I'm just going to shove there. This player so far seems to be playing really tight heads up, so I'm going to start opening a lot, even with hands like 2-5. Alright, here I opened with 10s. I'm going to bet the flop and just shove the turn. Pretty much any turn that comes. Alright, he shoves, so I have middle pair and a gut shot. I definitely think I have to call. Down here he can be shoving with, you know, 7s, 9s, hopefully not a jack, but we'll see. Yeah, see, he has a queen 9, so I just need to avoid a queen or a 9 here. I turn the straight and I'm able to win the pot. And we'll see if he rebuys. Alright, the player to the table to the right seems to be pretty competent. He 3-bet to a pretty standard amount. A lot of times when I'm playing fish, I'll find that their 3-bet amounts are like min 3-bets, or say I raise to like $3, they'll 3-bet to $6 or something, playing 100 big blinds deep. And alright, well, I seem to have ran out of fish action for the time being, and I think this video's been going on for a pretty long while so far, so the fish is still talking to me. I think I'm just going to end my session right now. So I hope you enjoyed my video. Again, I don't consider myself to be an elite heads-up player by any means. Probably against your average 200 no limit reg, I probably wouldn't be a big winner, if a winner at all, but I still find that I'm able to profit hugely at heads up games on stars just by using the table ratings site to look up my opponents, and just by trying to find weaker opponents to play heads up. I find that most of the fish that I do end up playing, as you probably saw in my video today, most of the fish are the weak passive type, but every once in a while you will get a fishy player that is loose aggressive, and those matches are definitely a lot more fun to play, and you know, a little higher variance, but definitely a lot more fun to play, and usually more action and quicker to bust. But yeah, that was my my video. I'm gonna go to Holdem Manager here and see if I can get the graph to come up for the last couple hours. I just put in for the last 2 hours, but it's probably about an hour or so. Maybe I think it was a little less, but I wasn't playing before that, so I think it was about an hour that I was playing. I made $246.95, and ran a decent bit above EV, and ended up losing a bit in showdown. But against the loose passive type, the type that I don't like to bluff a lot, I find that I am going to be losing at showdown against that type of player. So here's my Holdem manager graph for this session, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed my video. I found that a lot of hands pre-flop just didn't need a lot of discussion, so I wasn't discussing a whole lot of that, and maybe a lot of my discussion wasn't even on specific hands, but just about the game in general. But I hope that that some people do appreciate this video, just because I have gotten questions from people so far, like, "Oh my God, how do you beat the heads up game? How do you beat it for such a high win rate?" And I'm just trying to like give a little bit of an explanation, along with maybe with some examples of hands that I play and against the type of players that I do play against in my heads up games. So again, this was Ross, also known as Milwaukee 2 on PokerStars. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, just you should be able to find the forum for this one, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have about this video. Thank you. Goodbye.